Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make the spinning origami top. And this is a really fun one that my friend's daughter showed me how to make the other night, and I think you're going to enjoy it. There's 3 separate parts, and they use some of the skills that you learned in the crane, so it's going to kind of build on that. And so you make 3 parts and you assemble it together. The last part that you assemble is a little tricky, and I'll point that out in the video, but you might need your mom's help to put that one together if you're really having a hard time with it. And just use I'm using little sheets of origami paper because that's what I have, but use the full-size sheets that you have. And remember, I'm not going to be there to help you in person, but you can pause the video and rewind if you get stuck on something. And if something goes really askew and it's really off, sometimes it's better to just scrap that piece of paper and start over. And every time you do it, you're going to get a little bit better at it. So practice makes perfect, and I hope you have fun with it. You'll need 3 sheets of paper for this. They can either be the same color or different colors. So first start by folding it in half. Then open it up and fold it in half again. And be sure and line up those outer edges. Get the corners and the edge lined up first, and then swipe your finger down the middle to start the fold and then out to the sides. Now you're going to open it up and you're going to fold each of the corners in. So line up the corner of the paper with the center of the sheet. And get that lined up and then make your fold. And you're going to do that with all 4 corners. And you want to be very precise with it. If you're off on your first folds, it can affect the piece later on. So each step kind of builds on itself, and you want to make sure that you're being precise all the way along. Okay, now we're going to fold the corners in again. So there's a lot of folding corners in on this one. So you're just going to go around, fold each corner in. So I line the point up with the center of the paper. Once I make sure that point's lined up, I rub down the fold. Now that you've got that done, you're going to flip your paper over. And now we're going to bring the corners in again. So I usually spend some time lining it up before I really push down on that fold. I make sure that the whole thing's lined up, and then I go through and I rub the fold down. So here I'm kind of finessing it a little bit into place before I push down on it. So once you've got that done, you're going to fold it in half, point to point. After you've made both of those folds, flip it over, and you're going to pinch one side and pinch the other, and then push it together. And this is similar to a move we did in the crane. And once you get it pushed together, then firm up those folds. Now set it aside, and we're going to work on the second part. Fold your sheet of paper in half again, and once again, you're always starting with your pattern side down. Most times in origami, you're going to start with your pattern side down for the first fold. And then you're going to fold it again the other direction. Now corners into the center. You're going to do that all the way around, all 4 corners. Now flip it over. Fold it in half, edge to edge. And you're going to fold it in half again. And this gives us guidelines because now we're going to fold the point into the center. So when we fold it like that, that gives us an indication of where to fold to. And we're going to fold all 4 corners in. Now flip it over. And you're going to fold all 4 corners in again. Okay, now you're going to flip it over again. And now we're going to fold these corners outward. So I kind of grasp at each edge to get it really lined up nicely on those corners there. So I'm sort of going from pinching at each corner and then folding it out. So now we've got the second part of our top, and we're going to slide the first part into this part. So each of those points slides into these little pockets, and this part's a little tricky, not as hard as the last assembly though. So you just want to tuck those in, but at this point it's not going to spin very well. We still need the bottom part. It doesn't really work very well as the top till we have the bottom. So now this is the last part, and that's going to create the bottom. Fold your sheet in half. Now we're going to fold the edge into that first fold that we made. Now we're going to fold it in half again, and that's creating a guide so that we know where to fold into. So you open it back up, and now you're going to fold the edge into that guide that you just created. And now this part's a little hard to see, but you're going to take this into your edge and you're going to fold it down and line it up with the edge of the other paper. And I'm just pushing down on that diagonal fold that I'm creating right there. So I'm not pushing down all the way, just that center area there. And now I'm going to take the edge and line it up with the edge of the other sheet. So now I have these little points that are coming out, and once I get that lined up, that's when I'm going to really smooth down those points. And now you're going to do that on the other side. So I'm just pushing down on that diagonal fold, but not all the way across, just that little section in the center. And take the time to get it lined up before you push down on your folds. Get it nice and smooth. And now you're going to take those folds and bend them the other direction. So we want to get a crease going the other way. So bend all 4 of those going the other direction from the way they were. And now we just kind of open that up and gently push down, and then once you've got it pushed down into a sort of square shape, then really rub down your folds. So I kind of put my finger in between the sheets of paper and gently push down on it. So I lift it up, put my finger in there, open that up, and then gently push down. I'm taking the corners of the paper and lining it up with the center of my piece of origami. And then I just want to make sure all my folds are nice and tight. I'm using my nail to do that. Okay, so now this move is very similar to what we do in the crane. So we're going to make 4 tiny little kites on here. So you're taking the interior edge and you're taking that edge of the paper and lining it up in the center and making 4 tiny kites like you would if you were making the wings for a crane. You're going to do that on all 4 of those squares that you've got there. And now we're going to bend down the corners, and that just helps open it up because we're going to open it up just like we do the wings on the crane. So remember, we want to make this fold so that it's easier to do the step after that. So bend down each corner. And then open those corners back up. So we're just doing that to create a little fold there. And now we can open these up and create those little wings. Remember, this is a tricky part. We got to reverse that one fold. So just sort of gently work it into place. And once you've got it kind of lined up right, then push down and really define that fold. We're almost done. Just a couple more steps. So now we're going to fold these little flaps out. And here I'm using single-sided origami paper, so there's a pattern on one side and it's white on the other side. So the top has these little white triangles on it, but if you were using double-sided origami paper, you could have another color right there. So once we've got all those folded out, we're going to pull those crane wings back down. We're creating 4 little kites now. So this is the really tricky part. You've got to slide these corners into these pockets, and it's a little tricky. I hold on to the little white corner tab and I tug it out a little bit as I'm slipping that in, but you might want to get one of your parents to help you if this is too hard to do. And just gently pulling that tab out, get it under there, and then I push down on the little kites to make sure they're tucked in. And that's it. Now you've got a top.